Hello, welcome to Top of the World. I'm Simon, and behind me is our hydraulic wood splitter. So every year I kind of pull this out from wherever I've stuffed it during the winter or after we finish with it in the spring, pull it out and set it to work, and as things break, as they do, I fix them. Obviously in a rush because we're splitting wood. Is it overdue maintenance and overdue cleaning? Yes, because, like I say, I just pull it out and set to and use it. I've already changed a bad wheel that's been on it for 8 years, deflated, that causes me problems moving it around. This is a splitter that can fit to the back of the tractor and work directly off the tractor. However, it came with an electric pump, hydraulic pump. And that's how we use it. We basically plug it into our three-phase sockets. It has a long lead on it and we move it around where we need it. The wheels on the back are really useful because very often we set up our wood stillages in an arc with a pile of wood behind, and then we split and fill and move it. Anyway, it has had an O-ring leaking, weeping on the front of this hydraulic cylinder for 4 or 5 years. Just started off small, and I've got a little bent can underneath that catches the drips, tiny little weep. But when I pulled it out this year, I noticed that the hydraulic tank, right, the hydraulic fluid had gone out of it. Well, it's kind of a sealed tank. Where's that going? So it's time to clean it up, have a look and do some maintenance on it. So I fitted the wheel this morning and I've managed to move it where I dumped it with the tractor. However, once again on my nice floor, there is 2 spots of oil, which appear to be dripping from this tank. It does have a drain plug. It does have a drain plug underneath there, but it's not coming from that. It appears to be coming from there, which is a bit odd. So I'm going to clean the whole thing up and then we're going to drop this tank off and have a look. I'd like to do something with that switch, which has been like that for a few years now. When we bought it, it was a nice new switch, but it gets battered about and it's not looking its best. Generally it needs a clean up because it literally gets pulled from storage, used and put back in there. This has always been an issue. Right, I need to do something a bit better than that because I normally end up fixing this on the fly. And anyway, this is the valve. That's what pushes, you click it on there, that's what pushes the cylinder forwards. This is on this arm, which is attached to the cylinder. As the cylinder moves forwards, this here hits this, knocks that up, and the cylinder returns. That's how that works. Very basic, very basic. You also have an emergency pull wire here. Right, if something happens, you pull that. That also stops the ram and returns it. And then there's this weep on this cylinder. Now, I don't know what kind of size of O-ring that would be or whether I have the correct O-ring, but I do have a lot. So I might like to open that up and see if we can't replace the O-ring. Right, let's clean it up first. We need to take this tank off. So the tank is held on by these 4 clips, and then we can lower that down onto the floor, empty it out and understand where all the hydraulic fluid has gone and what's leaking in that. that's heavy. Right, it's this. Oh yeah, it's loose. Okay. Well, that'll be where the oil's coming from then. So there's a bit of sludgy stuff in there. We'll clean that up. Right. Well, I suspect there lies the problem. Because that was loose. And that'll be where the oil was leaking from. Right. We might just want to clean up under there. Okay. Okay, so ironically, now I've put all that fluid back in there, I can't actually fill the fluid level up to the right level, which is halfway across this eyeglass, to check to see if it leaks, because I don't have any hydraulic oil. So the last lot of hydraulic oil I had, when the snowplough burst its main hydraulic return hose and spewed its oil everywhere. Oh, that's loose, that shouldn't be loose. How is that even a thing? I don't believe that. And of course, the days of being able to have the odd 25 litres, 4 or 5 gallons of hydraulic oil lying around, they're over. Hydraulic oil's tripled in the last 5 years. All oil has tripled in price in the last 5 years. So, hopefully there's enough oil in there to run it. But I can't fill it up to the right level because I don't have it. And there's no way of being able to go and buy any. So, I have got some transmission oil. If it don't run, I could top it off with transmission fluid, but yeah, we don't have any hydraulic oil. So, and then, right, I'm just, well, I don't even believe this. So as I'm crouching down like this, filming you the other way, I've got my hand on this and it's wobbly. I don't know whether that's return or supply, but it's not wobbly in its socket. Look at that. Now if that was loose the last time it was used, right, it would have been squirting out hydraulic fluid everywhere. How can that even be a thing? I come across things like this all the time. There you go. How is that even loose? I don't know how these things come loose, but there are many things that become loose or indeed disattached around me. Alright, let's get something to tighten that up with and another bit of rag to clean up the mess I've now made. So I know that the old freeze-thaw loosens things sometimes, but they seem to loosen a lot, and it's not even things that are necessarily outside. I've had true story this. In a house I take care of, I've had a radiator by itself without any help actually remove itself from a wall and set itself on the floor, as in the plumbing bits, you know, they've undone themselves by themselves, and it's taken itself off and put it on the floor. And the next time I've gone to turn the heating on, the house is flooded because this radiator is actually by itself removed itself from the pipework, sat itself down on the floor all nice and neat, and now the flow and return pipes from the heating system are open. So you arrive there, turn the heating system on, and the next thing you hear, water coming down from where? And you get out to the main staircase of the house and it's like a waterfall. So you shut the water down and spend the next 2 hours cleaning up the mess really quick because everything's wood, only to find then that a radiator has removed itself and put itself on the floor. Anyway, all very interesting. So I'm not quite sure how that's undone itself, but we've done it back up now. Well, I just did that whole thing of not pressing record and then just talk to myself. So I've had no choice but to put a gallon of transmission fluid in that. It's not the right stuff. Got no choice. Okay. Now this cylinder's empty of oil. I can see it weeping out the cylinder. I can see that. And dripping. Well, there ain't nothing I could do about it. I'm sure putting that ATF in there hasn't helped because that's obviously thinner than hydraulic oil, but I can see it weeping a lot. No good's going to come of that. It's got to go to work, got no choice. I'm going to have to put another pot underneath there to catch the weeps. But really, they want those seals redone in there, but I can't, there's nothing I can do about it at the moment. Well, despite working on that now for 3 hours, I'm pretty sure I've gone backwards and just made a mess. It has got a... It hasn't. That's just going to burst. That wheel I put on it. Well, I haven't. I've actually gone backwards. Yeah. So we can't replace the switch because I don't have another waterproof switch that's suitable. Can't do anything about that. The piston seal is still weeping. It is slightly cleaner than it was, and it's got more oil than it has, and I did fix that leak. We can say it's slightly better than it was, only I can see that tyre's blown out of that. I knew that was going to happen. I should have, do you know what I was going to do was make a wooden wheel for it. I should have just made a wooden wheel for it and be done with it, because then I wouldn't have wasted all that time this morning. Let me show you what I mean. Look at that. Is that gonna blow up? Oh yeah. Yeah, so that's the one we took off. And you know, everything's so rotten and so old here, that's just not even gonna be a thing. That's just gonna, that's the inner tube in there, that's just gonna blow up. Than we started with. Is this going to blow up before we get it out the door? I don't know. I'm going to tempt fate by saying it's a relatively simple machine. Electric motor, blade. Anyway, we're going to whip this blade off and sharpen this blade. And then I've got 2 sets of bearings to pump a little bit of grease in, and she should be good to go, because there's nothing really else to it. Just a blade and an electric motor on a shaft with a couple of bearings. So, we'll get this blade off first. Must have a spanner for that. Yeah. Now you'll notice I'm wearing leather gloves when I bring it back to install it. You'll also say, well, you haven't filmed the sharpening of it. No. The reason for that being is you have to have the right kind of skill to do what I've just done. You have to use the right tools, if there is such a thing, understand how and why a disc explodes and blows up, be willing to face permanent disfigurement and death, or death, staring it in the face while you're doing it. It's not family friendly, and I wouldn't ever teach anybody how to do it. So if you've got a blade like this, use a file, hand file. Don't do what I just did, because you might not make it. And I've seen 2 men with permanent awful disfigurations as a result of discs blowing up through improper use, incorrect wear, blah de blah de blah de blah. So I've just risked all of that, and it is a risk because you never know exactly when they're going to let go, depending on the amount of wear, or if your hand moves, it catches the edge of the wrong edge of where it's supposed to be and it will just explode. Was I wearing glasses? It was the only face protection I was wearing, and I don't enjoy doing it. So what I can do, this hasn't been done for a good few years now, so I've done it properly, and now I can touch it up with a hand file as and when I need to. You can't get a flappy paddle in there and use that, because that would be the safest way of doing it, and you just can't. You can't use a steel cutting disc because they're designed to be used in only one way. So you have to use a different kind of disc that's got its fiberglass reinforcements all the way through it, not just on the edge. And you've got to pick one that you don't think's gonna randomly just explode. And you know that it's yeah, it can be fatal. It can be fatal. It's certainly disfiguring. So we won't do any of that. All I can tell you is that I've put in the new gussets in the right directions, and I've sharpened the entire edge and angled it in both ways, and that's probably all I need to do for this season. And then for next season I should be able to just get away with a very small touch-up. How's best to do that? Like that. So I will show you my sharpening in just a sec. Well, perhaps it's better to, I don't even know if you can see it. And that will all hold it together. So for those of you that are relatively new, I changed this blade a few years ago because the old blade started to make a noise. And I can hear it. When you've been around machines all your life, even deep down rumbling with a bearing, something like that. You know, those who've been around engines, you can hear bottom ends. And anyway, I didn't know what it was, so I stopped the machine and I visibly inspected the blade, and I couldn't see nothing. And I'm like, I'll tell you what, that could probably do with a sharpen. I took the blade off, and oh, it had excessive wobble. Yeah, I took the blade off and I went and put it on the bench, and as I put it on the bench, it had hairline cracks like this. It was like a triangular sandwich section, if you like, 2 cracks in it, and the blade was ready to let go. I can't tell you what kind of devastation that would have caused. Anyway, I've been lucky in the past. I used to use multi-head moulders on moulding huge logs, and these were carbide cutters, and by their sheer nature the blocks themselves weren't moulded, so the cutters were huge. I'd spent 4 or 5 days making and sharpening up all these cutters, put them into the blocks. I think I was on my 3rd run through, and for some reason I was behind the machine. and we were in my new factory, so I just built a factory, and it had double composite panels, which are metal panels, metal, insulation metal, composite. Anyway, I heard a click, and instantaneously there was a beam of light, sunlight, shining on the back of the machine. I turned around and there was a hole in the composite wall, yay big. This cutter had broken the machine, come out the back of the machine, right? How it come out the back, past me, and there you go. That was the same machine. I saw a man feeding the machine, and he had a checkered shirt on that weren't buttoned up. And as he pushed it, the front roller wheel caught his shirt. And because his shirt was like that, he was too far away from the emergency stop button, and he just launched himself back, tearing his entire sleeve off of his shirt, but he did save his arm. All right, bit of grease, and we're good to go with this one. It's been a few days, and since those few days I've uploaded the last video, which was the one with the tractor and pulling in the big trees, and then we had this storm. My word, scary, but not as scary as it used to be. And the reason for that being, we lost internet on the Thursday, and then we lost power and internet on the Friday. Is it Friday? Anyway, for every year we've been here, when the wind comes, and the wind's never been anything like it was, the building bangs and crashes, loose boards flap around, tin roof flaps. It's just always hanging in there. As most of you will know, last year I finished, finally, the outside of the building. It's taken me 6 or 7 years to do the entire perimeter. So we had the biggest winds we've ever had here, and we're in the valley, so it swells around. No, nothing. All there was the sound of the glass itself creaking in the windows. So I've done a good job. There's nothing loose. There's been something loose and flapping and banging, for years and years and years. Did I find it? Well, no, because I just replaced everything that was bad on the building as we were going elevation to elevation. Anyway, we've survived all that. It's now Saturday morning, and I've just finished answering all the comments or questions or everything that came in last night. And I made an executive decision. The wheel on the splitter, the tyre's no good. It's going to burst, and it's going to destroy the inner tube. So whilst I was looking for a new tyre on the Jungle Company, I found something that I thought would be really good, but may do instead, that was actually cheaper than a new tyre. So I have what we need to go and change on the splitter what I have purchased here. Now, how good are they going to be? Well, believe it or not, these two wheels were cheaper than one tyre. I should have known. Looks nice, right? They are indeed solid wheels. And I thought they would be some kind of solid rubber something, because what I was going to do was make some wooden wheels. Now they're blue. I know they're blue because they were the cheapest. You can buy them in different colours, but the blue ones were cheaper, and those two are cheaper than one tyre. Right. They do have, right, needle bearings in there. Right. Just in a plastic case. So, if these wheels were to ever move at any kind of pace, right, they would just self-destruct. And they are made of the nastiest, cheapest plastic. However, right, they can't get punctured, they can't get down, they'll always be the same. Arguably, right, they were almost cheaper than just making wooden ones, which is just, anyway. And that includes, well, I don't pay for postage. Postage is free from the Jungle Company. So these two are less than the price of a single tyre of the same size. Right? That's what they are. If you need anything the same. Well, they come from the Jungle Company anyway. So, what I need is a new washer on one side, some new cotter pins, a pair of pliers, and a large adjustable to get the nut off on the wheel that's got a nut. Are these going to survive the winters? I don't know. But the point about it is the man that owned it before me, he welded on those big bolts and put the wheels on because he was no longer able to move it about because it's too heavy. So for the first year, I think, it was on the two wheels and you can move it around because all the weight is, it slides over the back wheels. Well, since that's been flat like that now, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. And I no longer can, because of the twisting, manhandle it into place. And then it takes 2 of us to actually move it. And then that's a struggle, or you have to pick it up with a forklift. So I'm hoping these allow us to be able to move it from cage to cage as we're splitting and filling without the fight and the back twisting potential. And that's what it is. When you've got something, most of you watching even know what I'm talking about. Once you've got so many damaged discs in your back, you can twist. You don't even have to have any weight on it. And you'll just... Anyway... Will these solve the issue? I believe they will. How long will they last? As long as they last until I'm old enough not to be able to use that machine anymore, I don't really care. But I thought I would try it just because if I get a new tyre, the other side's also old, that's going to blow out the same. So I'm going to try these because they were silly money. Cheap. And they look cheap. I've never seen needle bearings encased in plastic before. Anyway, will they work? I think they will. Let's go and fit them. So this is the root cause. Wait, that's obviously not going to work. And they're both the same age, so that's just not going to last. So you see, after the storm, everything's pretty much... It blew all the top of that pack off there and spread that about. But otherwise, you wouldn't even know. There's just no wind. There's no wind. And look at the building there. Now it's coming out of its winter hibernation, how good that looks. And there's absolutely nothing flapping or hanging around. Yeah, it did really well. It's been really scary. Every time there's been wind up till this time, it's blown off the sled there and just... But everything else is pretty much standing. And now it's so calm and the birds are singing, you wouldn't even know there's been a storm. Anyway, let's see what we can do with these. It's going to look a bit funny, but right, well, that's the end of them then. And I was going to get black, but black was more expensive than the blue. I'm assuming these are cheap because they couldn't sell them because they've made them in a stupid colour. It's good for me. Take advantage when they mess up. All right. Yeah, that's not gonna do us any favours. Can I get this back on, or do I need to lift it up higher? I need to lift it up more. Yeah, okay. It's only just going to work, but it's got to be better than what's going to happen there in a flat tyre. That's what I'm going to say to that. That just weren't going to last, was it? Yeah. Oh well. There we go. Oh yeah. That's it, that's all you need. Every year what I do is, once I've stacked up the wood here, and because it's coming in from much further away and often over a much longer period of time, and for the first, well, up until last year, it used to come in small batches on the back of the snowmobile. And then what I used to do is put the forks in there and fight the twisting logs and all that, and then move them to where we were processing. And the whole idea of doing a yard like this is so that this is now the firewood processing area, as well as the lumber processing area. But no more's going to come in. So rather than move all this again and add another process and more cost, I'm actually going to cut it in to the sections I need, which are 70 centimetres, 60 centimetres, 700 millimetres, so many inches, where it is. And that means I don't have to try and move it with a machine and move it around and make more mess. Everything will try and stay where it is. And then I'm going to... Oh, yellow snow. And then I'm going to try and split it and process everything here. That's going to cut down on costs, moving things, accidents, should cut down on everything. Does that look safe to wade in there with the chainsaw and try and... I actually think it's all the lesser of two evils, I do. So, we're going to set the splitter up here and the saw up here. The saw is for the small stuff, for the wood spiss upstairs and for the tops, and then I chainsaw the bigger stuff, and that'll go through the splitter and get stacked into these. And then I can lift these, which is how we do it, some of you would have seen it, into the opening of the canopy, and then they get hauled all the way through to the back of the wood shop there, which is where they go down underground. But before they go down underground, they have to be out. They should have already been split, but they have to be out through part winter, part summer. Will this stuff here be needed for this coming winter? I don't think so. Anyway, they have to be out and dry, and as I've explained before, our weather is so cold and so dry, our wood actually dries better through the winter months than it does in the summer, because in the summer it can be very wet and you're constantly putting moisture into the wood. In the winter, this winter being an exception, in the winter there is zero moisture. In fact, the cold weather draws the moisture out of everything. So if you can dry your wood in the winter and get it inside before melt, you will actually have less moisture content in the timber than you would if you dry it in the summer. So, hop. That's enough of that. Let's just set the machines up. So I've chopped this lot up with a chainsaw. I moved some of that pole from there to there because we went through a good part of this pile on Saturday. So I moved some of this from there to there, put the chainsaw through that lot. That's all ready to go through our lovely splitter, which is still seeping a bit from this seal, but it would do because I don't have hydraulic oil in it. I have transmission oil. Transmission oil is a lot thinner than hydraulic oil, so, and it probably is not doing the seals any good before you all start. And there's my pile of tops, which I'm sifting through as I'm going. So yeah, it's all kind of mixed in now. I can't even tell you what came from, so we're just gonna go through it. Well, I can tell you this big stuff didn't come from the mountain because there ain't nothing big like that there. But after a while it all blurs into one and you don't actually... Sometimes there's a distinct piece and you think, oh yeah, that's where that was, but we were in a bit of a rush. I've still got that timber laid there. I'm going to try and get that off the deck, get it up in the air. I really need to square it off through the sawmill. So that's today's task. Continue filling these stillages. and they're getting very broken and worn out, these things. They're, you know, I'll keep patching them up, and I have made some new ones, but we've still got to clear from last year. You see how low I am on general wood. Well, that was almost full up. All of that has gone, went into the shop cabinets, drawers and stuff. So I have very little, if any, dried birch left. And that's taken me 4 or 5 years to, you know, keep the... You have to have really big birch. This small stuff's no good for planking, boarding, canting, whatever. Right, so from last year, so the front of the shed is empty and the back of the shed is empty, and I've got a couple of rows in the middle there, and then over here we've just got a couple more to go down. So this is all the flat wood which I cut up, and what I do is I put an axe through that and use that for kindling. But you can see this pallet, the whole, everything is just... So I did, this is one of my new ones, I think. I did make up some new ones 2 years ago. So there's like this one, that one. There's 4 or 5 of these need emptying down into the cellar. These have been outside now, one summer, one winter. So moisture content will be somewhere between 12 and 16% when it goes down. The dehumidifier, as some of you will know, is kaput. The new dehumidifier is kaput. Now, I have got to ring Scotty about this because he is an air conditioning engineer and he might be able to point me in the right direction, but I keep forgetting I've got to do these things. Anyway, I've got a big fan down there, so far we've filled 3, which is 3 more than we had. And yeah, the ice is going. We're all good. But I like to move this around early in the morning whilst the ground is still frozen, because as soon as the sun gets on this, it's so full of water, it's just destroys it and churns it all up. And we've laid new stone everywhere, so what you don't want to do is start pummeling the new stone into this, because this crap rises up and you're right back where you started from, and you've pissed all your money down the drain. So this is all looking quite good. I didn't catch any of this while we're snow ploughing because I let the ground freeze good and hard. Right, I'm going to do an update. Why is the shop full of wood, Simon? Well, because we need to get this wood, which is now one summer and one winter dried, out of here and down into the cellar so we can free up these stillages and refill them. Because things are going not bad outside, considering. And when I say considering, I can only work a few hours in the morning. I say a few. I've been managing like 5 or 6. But constantly on the saw and constantly on the wood is just... Anyway, I'm working through it. And the bulk of the lifting from the floor into the stillages, my Sarah's doing. So, we're working our way through the pile of wood. Right, we're running out of stillages, so I've had to collect all the wood from where we store it, bring it in. It's all got to go down in the cellar and be restacked. So an update. Okay, let's do an update on where we are. There's seems to be something falling out of the sky. Anyway, so as you know, the winter ended and the ground is the ground is covered in snow. Okay. Oh, yep. Also, there's probably no machines out because it's snowing. I was going to set a camera up on time lapse so that you can see what's going to happen over the next few hours, because I know what's going to happen over the next few hours. The only trouble is it's no longer warm. It's now cold. And no matter how much I think about it or try, I can't set up a camera in a way that's going to run for more than an hour anyway without being completely dead and dying. So, that's that. And I'm back to holding the camera because all my selfie sticks are all broken. So, where are we? Right, well, the second pile we brought in, which was from the mountain road, that's all gone. I've moved the large fir into that area there, which I did all this yesterday because I knew what was coming today. And we're working our way significantly through the second pile, which came in from the second location. So we're a good way there. What does that relate to? Well, there's my nice blue wheels. You see me put on that. They're undercover, under the sawmill. And it all looks nice and fresh because, like I say, pretty much all the ice that we've been suffering with for months now melted off. Is the tractor set up for snow ploughing? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I don't know what the date is. Oh, 10th of April. So, for those that don't know, 10th of April, still winter. Right, still winter. I should have been snow ploughing all the way through January, February, March, April. I have ploughed in May. Anyway, that's not been so. How's all that wood going? Yeah. So this here, a majority of this is split and stacked in these by my Sarah. Why is she doing that, Simon? Well, the machines are hers, and she likes the machines. She likes splitting wood and stacking them in the stillages. It's also a really vital part of our winter, because the sooner you get the logs, those that do firewood know this, but the sooner you get the logs split and cut, the sooner they're drying. And normally we're still in, you know, like I've said, minus temperatures, and that draws all the moisture out. Is the snow our normal dry snow? Yeah, it is. Here it is. So we're on hold for today and probably tomorrow. But certainly today, because at the moment it's only just coming down lightly and I don't want to rab it on. And then, yeah. So I set this concrete thing up here on a big steel sheet, right, to burn some of my rubbish. I know it's got the top of a tree in there at the minute. Anyway, how did that go? Well, it set fire to the pallet, which probably wasn't my best idea, right? Anyway, that had all the old trims and stuff with nails and screws in, so I've got to magnet all that out before I can move it. Otherwise, we'll be back to having... Right, so what we're doing today then, Simon? Well, unfortunately, later I got a feeling we got to go out in that and clear. So the snow plough's right down there, look, because I thought I'd Anyway, I haven't finished with it. So we're going to interrupt our planned schedule video for seeing all the wood cut and split, and we got another more urgent job that we've got to look at. And the reason it's become more urgent, all this wood's got to go down. The reason it's become more urgent is because of the vast amount of wood that's now going downstairs, which is not ideal. We haven't had the sort of melt all in one time like we normally do, because our cellar walls leak. And the cellars can fill with water, and then if you've got wood down there, you're in trouble. Well, that's not going to happen now. So all this dried wood is all going down in the hole. This. Okay. Let's take that and go this way. Okay, that's the hardest bit done, getting it on the bench. So, what do we have in here? In here we have the filter in the door. And then we have the radiator, or the cooling element. This is the bit that freezes. The air draws, the fan draws the air through here. This is what freezes up, melts, goes into this tray, and then pours into this container. And you can have it in a container, or you have an outlet here. You can unscrew that, take the sealing washer off, and run a tube out of here, down through this hole, and into a drain. So, one of the things we got to hope we find is a Schrader valve. That's one of the things we're looking for. What's a Schrader valve? It's the valve that you find on your tyres, on your car, caravan, boat wheel, bicycle wheel, the valve with the little... Anyway. Okay, let's take this off. So we're in. This is the compressor that's failing to switch on. So firstly, I'm looking for anything obvious, any traces of any oil. There are no obvious traces of any oil splatter. Schrader valve. That is how they're gassed. Now I know it won't focus behind there, and I can't actually touch it. There, what you don't want to do is press in the middle, because it is, if it is fully gassed, it won't be if you press it. Right, what that means is we can regas it. Right, see that? Don't touch that. Definitely don't put your tongue across the terminals, because it will kill you. Okay. So let's look for any small internal fuses. Okay. So I spent some time on this all through yesterday. I was texting, emailing my friends. We were discussing various things to check, types of gas, weights of gas. We went through all this. Started again this morning, 7:30 AM, and I've just managed to get the compressor to fire up. So this is now running. Hot fluid on the low side. We've got no cold fluids at the minute. It's not getting hot yet, so I've got to let it run, because there's no way of determining at this moment, without extracting the gas, exactly what it's got in it and how much it weighs. So I'm just going to let it run and monitor it because I haven't been able to get this compressor to fire up. I checked all the wiring and put all the wiring back, and now the compressor's fired up. So we know the compressor works, and I know the circuitry and all the wiring work. What I don't know is why it didn't work. I also don't know whether it's got the right amount of gas in it. So now we've got to see if it's going to freeze down. But it's definitely running. So we know what this is. This is the magnetic switch for a four-way valve. Compressor. Yeah, it's running, okay. So I don't think we'll see anything for a minute, because it takes a while to freeze up. And the snow warmed up yesterday afternoon, so wasn't such a catastrophe after all. It's so beautiful here in the mornings. Well, so beautiful here any time of day. Alright, so this is a lot further on than we've been. And it's getting warm. Let's let that run up. So also yesterday, I spent a large amount of time working on GCSE, economics and business. But before I did all that, I've emptied all 4 of these, which are now ready to go back outside to be refilled, and the cellar is filling up. Thus my big push to get the dehumidifier running is at the moment I've only got a big fan in there. Not only is the fan circulating the air, so it will stop it from doing anything bad, but the dehumidifier needs to be in there. It needs to start drawing out all the excess moisture from that timber. Otherwise I'm going to run into trouble down there. It's not wet, it's probably only, well, I say probably, I know what it is. It's between 16 and 22% moisture, and that's too much for that room. So we're still running. It's not getting excessively hot at all, which is a good thing. So, with my basic understanding, this is where I am with it. Compressor is working, and it's not hot. So I was told if this was out of gas or oil, whatever it is, it would be hot. Now this machine doesn't run on normal refrigerant. It runs on R290, which is highly refined propane, which is a new way of doing more environmentally friendly refrigeration. However, the downside with highly refined propane is it's going to be very explosive. So how a dehumidifier works is freeze and thaw. So it has the big coil on the front which freezes up through highly compressed gas, and then at a certain point this four-way valve is changed, and then it puts heat through the pipes, thaws everything which drains into the tank. This four-way valve then switches back and it starts freezing again. Freeze and thaw. Now this is a magnetic switch that operates a slider in this valve, and I can tell when it's switched on and now because it's magnetic. I don't know if this four-way valve is working, and so I've been told if I undo that screw and pull it out, right, the valve's going to change. I'm going to hear it change. So we've run that now for nearly an hour, right, and nothing has happened. The compressor is not, it's above cold, but it's not warm or hot. So it's either not working or it's working in the thaw cycle and not the freeze cycle. does that mean everything here is right? And I don't know. So my idea, and it is only a theory, is to remove that screw and pull that out, right? Now I've been told through my friend who works on huge commercial stuff, there will be a psst, you'll hear something or other. And then if I leave that out and the four-way valve is moved, if I turn it back on, will it freeze? I don't know. All I know is don't go near the capacitor. And well, I haven't heard anything. Yeah, that's definitely electromagnetic. It's not. Huh. Now that's interesting in itself. There doesn't appear to be any magneticness in that. Which means that valve might not have been on. Okay, well I've got another idea then. Do I have any idea what I'm doing? No, not really. Magnet. Oh, get off. Okay. I don't know if that's the right thing to do. So perhaps this has a magnetic charge when it needs to freeze. But oh, I just heard it move. There. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Put that there for a minute, Simon. You hear that? I can feel it as well. Right there. Okay, that's working. Right, so it's in a different position now. Stop. It's in a different position now than it was before. Do I now switch it back on? It's a good question. Do you now switch it back on? I'm not sure I've got anything to lose. So you can hear it sliding up and down. Right. Is this a good idea or a bad idea, Simon? Good idea. So, basically I'm using a magnet to change the position of that four-way valve without having any idea why I'm doing that. So now I've moved that four-way valve using a magnet, which means it should be in the opposite cycle. So if it wasn't in the freeze cycle before, it is now. So if I now run that and it still doesn't freeze, then we know we've got no refrigerant. And that means I can buy the refrigerant and fix it. Right, let's leave that running with that magnet there. Okay, I have instant update. So, high side, high pressure tube is cold. Compressor, hot. So if we go round here to the coil and feel the coil, coil is warm. So we're in defrost mode. This is warm. High side is cold, compressor is warm. Okay. warm. So what we know is when that switch, when this electromagnetic switch is activated, that puts it into defrost mode. So if we remove this magnet, we'll hear this four-way switch slide back. There we go. So when it's magnetised, it's in thaw mode. When it's demagnetized, it's in freeze mode. So we've got thaw mode. Compressor is warm, quite warm, not hot but warm. The high pressure side is cold, although now it's coming back warm because we've moved the electromagnetic switch. So we know that before, when we had it running, that this was supposed to be freezing, and it was not. There we go. So we know the four-way valve works. We know this is in the right mode, for freeze mode, and we know it's not freezing and it gets warm and the high side gets cold when we're in thaw mode. So we can almost say with an element of positivity, it is low or out of gas. And we don't have any leak that we know of. So there's only a small amount of gas in these. Right, and we can see from this, it's R290. And we can see from this here, it's supposed to hold, come on focus, it's supposed to hold 230 grams of R290, which is a refined propane refrigerant. So we got a Schrader valve in there. Now the next step will be to purchase a can of R290 with the relevant valve and everything else, degas this, and then put the bottle and all the stuff on a kitchen scale, you know, a fine scale, and put in 230 grams of R290, right? And at that point, it should work, because we now know the compressor's working, we know the valve is working. We can't fool the electromagnetic switch into working, right? But we're going to assume that works, and it's out of gas. So we're not going to be able to conclude that in this video because it's Friday morning and I have to edit this for tonight. But we will conclude this once I've got the gas. The downside to buying the gas is, of all the different refrigerant gases you can buy that are readily available to buy, R290 is the most expensive by far. And the whole point of trying to fix this is we can't afford to buy a new one. And this is quite new, but it's, you know, cheap Chinesey thing, and it's out of gas. So that's why it's not working. And it has run for 18 months non-stop, right? So we want to make that clear. It's not an occasional use. It goes down in the wood room, gets switched on, and it runs forever. Right. Okay. Now then, with all the snow and stuff, I suppose we should go and look at how feasible it is to go back to doing what we were doing. That's back to outside. It is melting fast. I can see it dripping. Maybe I can get back on to cutting, splitting and stacking logs. That is all we've got for you today. Thank you all for sticking with me. I really appreciate it. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.